Hi folks, I hope you're all doing fine and yeah, things are dandy. So we've breached October. It's the time of the year when I'm usually on my Busan International Film Festival mode. And for the very first time since 2008, I think I'll be sitting this edition down. And not because I don't want to. My heart is there in Busan, and it's just looking forward to the treats that the festival usually prepares for all of us. But the government of South Korea has issued a decree that maybe for this edition, the festival should just focus on the locals, and which is sad because I don't know how I'm going to fill up my life in the next few weeks. It was supposed to start the 7th, but I heard that it's going to be pushed back by 2 weeks. But in any case, break a leg, padayon Busan. Around the time it's going to start, it's going to be Mercury retrograde. Mercury goes retrograde on the 14th and will end around the first 3 days of November. But what's interesting about the incoming Mercury retro is that it's embedded in an ongoing Mars retrograde, which started the last beginning of September and will end in the middle of November. So we have a double whammy thing. But just to tell you what really is happening in terms of movement in the stars, let me show you what I prepped. Okay, so this, folks, what you're seeing is a program that I love. It's a program that I use to do charts, and it's one of the best softwares available. It comes from Australia. It's called Solar Fire, and I've been using Solar Fire for decades already. And it has so many goodies. Unfortunately, it costs an arm and a leg. But let me get my mug out of this picture. So what this program does basically is that it can do all sorts of computations for you. But today I just want to show you how things look like. So let's get used first to what you're seeing here. So these are where the planets are. So the planets are here, and this is the sign of the zodiac, and this is where they're going to be moving. The starting date for this demo is the middle of December 2019. To the lower right, we have the list of the planets I'm going to use. I'm not using all the planets and where they are based on their zodiac signs and degrees and minutes. Okay, this will be my what do you call this? My instrument panel. So let's look at it. So the signs are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. So the zodiac. So I'm using just the mundane zodiac wheel, and the planets I'll be using this morning would just be Mars. It's colored appropriately red. Mercury, orange. Gray is an asteroid, Pallas Athena, and you'll see why I'm using it for this particular talk. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is blue. Saturn, the planet of organization structures and systems, is brown. Pluto, the one that's been causing all of these deep-seated atomic changes, one of the slowest moving planets, of course, is black, and Venus is in green. Okay, so briefly, let me just say that Mars, Mercury, and Venus are called personal planets in the sense that they talk about individual ways of being. Mercury defines our mental constructs, how we look at things, how we process data. Venus represents our value system, okay, what we think is important, what we consider to be beautiful or right and true, while Mars talks more about the way we do things or our levels of energy and how we attack life. Okay. Samantalang these other planets, okay, they're all in Capricorn at this point, the middle of December 2019. They represent more the social and the collective sides of life. So Saturn and Jupiter are the social planets in the sense that they talk more about how society is during certain periods. So Jupiter is the green signal or the go signal or how a society expands, and Saturn is more like the red stop signal, which is not it's a bit repressive, but it represses only so that there's a sense of definition. So you can't forever just be going bigger and bigger. Saturn gives this expansion structure. Okay, I'm not including Uranus and Neptune here, but for the purpose of this morning, we need to talk about Pluto. Pluto is one of the collective planets, okay, and it shows you how everything is changing. So if Uranus is abrupt revolutionary change and Neptune, which is, they're both not here, okay, represents this change to dissolving or transcending. Pluto is deep atomic molecular fabrics of creation change. And its entry into Capricorn in the middle of the 2000s, the beginning of the 2000s, is a sign that's preparing us for what's happening to us now in the 2020s. So let me just show you how they look like when they move ordinarily. So I'm going to move them by weeks, and I'm going to make the speed a bit slow. So December 15, look how the planets move. So that's January middle, end of January, February, end of February, March 2020, middle of March, end of March, beginning of April, middle of April, end of April, May, middle of May, end of May, beginning of June, middle of June, end of June. So see there, Mercury is going retrograde. July, end of July, August, September, October. So this is where we are right now, okay? So where we are right now, we have, as I mentioned earlier, Mars retrograde. Venus is in the first degrees of Virgo. Mercury is in the first degrees of Scorpio. And we have the heavy hitters all in Capricorn. So Capricorn, as I mentioned, is world order, social systems, governments, and the way structures are, define our reality in quotation marks. So we have all of these planets just messing up our hair when it comes to these things. And these are slower moving planets. And you saw that these three faster planets went around since the middle of December last year, while these planets are practically not moving. Okay, so as I said, Mercury will be going retrograde. So let's just pay attention to this part, this orange planet here, circa there. See? Let's go to days. Mercury was going direct until October 13, and by the 14th, you see the S there, it means that it's stationary retrograde, so it seems to have stood still in preparation for a change in direction, a direction from derecho to paatras, okay? So around the next days, it goes into an RX, which means it's retrograde. So Mercury is retrograde, fully retrograde by the middle of October, and as I mentioned, at the same time, we have a Mars retrograde. So when planets go retrograde, it just means they're going backwards so they can adjust, reevaluate, and repair things. Okay, it's like you've gone out of the house, you're about to take a ride, then all of a sudden you forgot your wallet. So you rush back home and start looking for it. So retrograde periods are periods of reevaluation. And as I mentioned, a Mercury retrograde, is just time for people to reevaluate the way we process data, the way we think and overthink, and the way we, our basic attitude towards life. Okay. Mars retrograde, which is longer, it started around September 3 and will last around November 14, is telling us to reevaluate the way we do things, our habits, how we expend our energy, how our modus vivendi, our modus operandi. Okay, so around the middle of October, full blast na yung talagang uh, what we're being asked to do, which is to reevaluate the way we look at life and do things. Okay, and if we go backwards, let's just play with this favorite toy of mine. I'm using months. If you notice, I'm looking at Venus here. Around the middle of the year, Venus was retrograde. So let's look exactly when Venus turned retrograde. So this is Venus, Mars is here, Mercury is here, okay? And if we move it forwards, Venus turned retro. Okay, pay attention to this planet. Okay, around this time, around the middle of May, May 13th. So stationary retrograde, okay, in 21 degrees Gemini. So Venus going retrograde is a reevaluation of our value system. So what are our value systems? What we think is beautiful and not beautiful, what we think is precious and not precious. So that includes our social values and the way we deal with ourselves and other people. Okay? What I like about a graphic representation as presented by this software is that your imagination works double time. So for example, Mercury is going this way, direct. Venus is going clockwise or retrograde. And in my book, okay, so let's look at this. Para silang nagsasalubong, okay? Our way of thinking is about to encounter our way of feeling or what we value, but which is in the process of repair or evaluation. So, and the moment they hit each other, to me is very important. Okay, let's go to ours. Because it shows you a key period in their combination. Okay? So around the 22nd of May, okay, nakita mo nag-shift sila, no? You could say that Mercury was seeded by a retrograde Venus. So our way of thinking was given a filter that was bestowed on us by our changing value systems. So now that when you see Mercury moving the next few days, okay, let's go to days. Okay, let's just go to days, folks. They're separating, okay, and but Mercury going forward, it seems like it's not the same Mercury as when it was here before because it's been impregnated with a new value system that's affecting its mental constructs. Okay, so I hope I'm not speaking over your heads. At a certain point here, beginning of June, look at Venus. Okay, you see it's still retrograde. Mercury turned retrograde in the 18th of June, stationary retrograde. Venus is still retrograde, okay? And then a couple of days after, Venus begins its direct motion, stationary direct, okay? And in the next few days, magsasalubong na naman sila. But this time, it's a refurbished value system and Mercury that is beginning to think, ano ba talaga ang dapat kong isipin at this point o pagkaabalahan? So, magsasalubong na naman yung value system natin and our mental constructs. So look at this. But this time, it's one planet is direct and the other planet is paatras. Around July 13, Mercury goes direct. Thank God. Okay, let's go back to hours. So kailan to? So Mercury goes direct on the 13th. Okay, S stationary direct. So that means they will not completely seed each other. Okay, the seeding was done by a retrograde Venus on Mercury that was direct. But now they'll be proceeding forward. What to me that means only is that around the middle of July, yeah, we're still flailing around the shaky waters for lockdown, but we have managed to get used to it in a way. Okay, so if you look at these two planets, the diretso na naman sila. Okay. So let's do days. So end of July, and this is around the time that we had our solar eclipse. So the three personal planets are now going direct. Okay, let's just go back to this fantastic T-square. So we have Mercury opposite Jupiter, Jupiter square Mars, Mars square Mercury. So the way we do things or the way we're changing the way we're doing things because it's retrograde and the way we're thinking and the way we expand, okay, or the way we look at society has changed tremendously, okay. So it's not just a mental, when you have a T-square, it's okay, an opposition with two squares, it's an aspect pattern that demands action. It's not just telling us, ganito kayo mag-isip. It's telling us, yes, ganito kayo mag-isip, but then you have to do something about it. So in this case, we have to make physical, visible, real, manifested adjustments with our day-to-day life and the way we, want to do things. Okay. Usually squares are crazy because it takes a lot of energy to just get out of your butts and start doing things. But the Mercury and Jupiter opposition is in the mind opener. So it's telling us to look beyond our limitations. So let's go forward again. So let's do weeks. Okay. So, dire-diretso na naman to. And around the beginning of September, okay, Mars is the planet that begins its weeks, several weeks long retrograde. So look at this. By September 10, the first third into September, Mars begins its stationary retrograde movement. So it stops still, stationary, and then the next few days it's now retrograde. So let's just move it forward by days. So nasaan na to? September 17, 18, and as I mentioned, we are here. Okay, September 3 or 4. Okay. So that's where we are. So Mars in Aries is the factor that makes us very, very impatient. And the impatient is not allowed to express itself outwardly. Well, obviously because of the lockdown, but also because Mars is retrograde. We are being asked to reevaluate our modus vivendi, our modus operandi, or the way we expend our energies. But it's difficult in Aries because Aries is a sign that demands expression. Yeah, it's the first sign of the zodiac. It's ego at its freshest, at its wildest. So it's not an easy thing. So you see that one part of us is screaming inside for things to move faster. But, as I mentioned, the heavy hitters are all in Capricorn, slow, measured, deliberate Capricorn. And the changes we're experiencing is not, just for a couple of weeks or months or even, a year. It's a generational change, planetary change. Okay. And then let's look at what happens. Mercury, as I showed you earlier, is about to go retrograde. Okay, there, it went retrograde around October 14. So, okay, so around middle of October, we are given the opportunity again to look at the way we live our lives and see other people and see society and our relationship with the planet. We're being asked again for another edition of changes. Hindi pa siya tapos sa atin, folks. So just hang on in there. I mean, if you see that they're all moving, and they're always moving, folks, sometimes backwards, but most of the time forwards. It just tells you that what's happening to us just happens to be a bit crazy because sabay-sabay yung demand for change, but it will change. If you ask me when things are going to ease up a bit, the operational world is a bit, it's going to be the last part of December, and I want to show you this. So pay attention to these planets. So Pallas Athena, by the way, sinali ko dito because it's the planet of scientific thinking or scientific theory. It's also the asteroid that represents medicine, or in this case, the search for it's the search for vaccine. It's also the planet that talks about microbiology and all of that. No, it's also with the three heavy hitters. So when you look at the way things are going to move by December, may let up ng konti. And the let up I'm looking for is when the first of these four planets leave repressive or depressive or suppressive Capricorn and enters liberating Aquarius. Okay, Aquarius is the sign of revolutions or revolutionary change. Okay, so by December 10, let's look exactly what day. Okay, by December 7, the first planet forming the cluster in the stellium in Capricorn has moved into Aquarius. So there's, could be breakthroughs in vaccines or science or telling us that we're going to get fucked up more. But whatever happens, it's a sign that things are going to change from Capricorn repression and fixativeness to more relaxed state of thinking. And then let's look at Saturn and these two other planets. Okay, Saturn and Jupiter. Okay, the next few days. So by December 16 or 17, Saturn has moved out of its own sign. Okay, so Saturn is the one that's making the times doubly difficult because it's the ruler of Capricorn. Saturn has entered Aquarius. In traditional old astrology, Saturn used to be the ruler of Aquarius also. Okay, but it was the positive expression of Cronus or Saturn, but a sign of liberation. And a few days after, so remember this is December 17, lumipat na rin ang Jupiter into the first degrees of Aquarius, so around December 20, folks. Our Christmas may not be that depressing. There's a sign that we would have reached a point of no return in terms of wanting to break through what's been happening to us. It doesn't mean the virus is going to go away or the vaccine has been completely found. It just means that we should have revolutionized the way we've been living. So if things have been oppressive since the beginning of the years, expect revolutions to happen. So please don't try to read too much into my words, okay? So yeah, you see these planets have moved into Aquarius. But if you ask me, when are things going to get a semblance of normality? Folks, para sa akin, well, based on this, it's not going to be 2021, no 2022. Based on my toy here, it's circa 2023. So let me just show it to you. So let's do months, okay? And let's move it. So what we're looking for is Pluto finally getting out of a repressive, conservative Capricorn and moving into liberating Aquarius. So let's look at it. So look at the dates here, okay? Okay, let's do months. So by 2021, andun pa siya, oh. You see? Okay. So, okay, nakaikot na yung faster planets, but it's only 2022. It's still just lingering around the last degrees of Capricorn. But by 2023, around April and May, it's finally made its move into Aquarius. Let's try to see exactly what day. So ito yung tinitingnan natin. So, and this is the line, the boundary between Capricorn and Aquarius. So, Pluto finally leaves Capricorn circa March 20, 21, March 23. And yeah, that's how things are, folks. So I hope you like my visual demo of how planets move. They're not out there to get you, people. They're just the background of our lives, you know. Planets don't tell you what to do, or that you're going to die, you're going to have a miserable life. Everything is really up to us. But it gives you a background, a bracket, a way to look at big chunks of the world at a certain point, to know that this is a time for full blast expansion and this is a time for baby steps. So, I hope you enjoy that, people, and yeah, happy double retrograde this coming October.